The Woman in the Well, from 8 scary ghost stories. Don't watch alone. Spine-chilling stories. Peacock Kids. I am Faith. This is the story of the woman in the well. Don't turn off the light. Each year Rachel's mother will drop her out at her grandma's house for the yearly visit. Grandma lived on a dirt road, miles from neighbours, tucked away in a beautiful forest. At night, Rachel would take Grandma's dog, Harry, out for a long walk in the woods. As she clipped on Harry's leash and stepped out, Rachel's phone buzzed. She didn't know she'd have service so far away from town. An unknown number had sent her a text. "Come to the well," it read. She tried to respond and ask who it was, but the message wouldn't go through. She shrugged it off. It's probably a wrong number. Harry pulled her along the dirt road, picking up scent. She let him lead her as she looked up to the beautiful moon through the trees. Suddenly Harry stopped and began growling about what was in front of him. Looking around, Rachel realized that she was in unfamiliar territory. She never walked this way before. She strained her eyes to see what Harry was barking at up ahead. There stood a large stone well in the middle of the pathway. She had never seen it before. Curious, she crept towards the well with her cell phone flashlight and peered down to the bottom. But the well had dried up. All she could see was dirt and darkness. "Hello," she called out playfully, listening to the echo bouncing back at her in the blackness. Her cell phone buzzed again. It was another text. But this time, it was a picture of her. She jumped back in shock, tripping over a tree root, her phone flying in the air and shattering down beside her. She and Harry ran back to the house. Her grandma tried to calm her. The well was old and dried up, she explained. In fact, it was odd that she stumbled across it tonight. Contractors were coming over tomorrow to cement it over. Rachel tried to show her grandma the picture she had been sent, but it had disappeared. Her grandma made her some tea, and Rachel fell asleep on the couch. Early in the morning, she was awoken by the sound of the cement truck backing up, and her cell phone ringing incessantly. Half asleep, Rachel picked up her shattered phone and held it to her ear. "Hello?" she answered. "Come to the well," said a voice on the other line. "They are burying me." Rachel leapt up and ran as fast as she could. But she was too late. The cement truck was driving away, and a pile of gravel lay where the hole had been. Hurriedly she picked up the phone and dialed back the number. It rang, and she heard a ringing on the other line. The ringtone was emanating from the ground, deep, deep below her, buried in the darkness, until the ringing stopped. "Hello?" Disembodied voice, from 8 scary ghost stories. Don't watch alone. Spine-chilling stories. Peacock Kids. Hi, I'm Faith. This is the story of the disembodied voice. Don't turn out the lights. It was a hot spring night in Florida. Chrissy had just gone home from school and settled down to do her homework in her old wooden house. It had been in the family for over 100 years, and it creaked and groaned as the winds blew. To Chrissy, they were the familiar sounds of a house full of love, one that never used to be silent. She fondly remembered her grandmother cooking, bashing pots and pans in the kitchen. She'd yell, "Chrissy Lou," the nickname she'd given her, when dinner was ready. But the house was quiet after school now. Chrissy settled in her room, began her homework, waiting for her mom to get back home. Her dog sat beside her. Chrissy had just finished her first math problem when she heard the door slam downstairs. Mom must be home early. Chrissy called down to her. Mom? There was no response. Probably just the wind, she thought. She shrugged it off and continued her homework. An hour passed. She almost finished her first assignment when she faintly heard the sounds of pots and pans clanging downstairs. She hadn't heard Mom come in through the door. "Chrissy Lou," a voice called from downstairs. "1 second," Chrissy responded, finishing up her final math problem. "Chrissy Lou," the voice called again. Chrissy closed her books and walked downstairs, calling her dog to follow. But he wouldn't budge. She shrugged it off and walked downstairs and into the kitchen. No one was there, but what she saw sent a chill down her spine. Every pot and pan in the house had been stacked neatly in the middle of the room. Cabinets lay open and empty. The side door flew open beside her. In the doorway stood Chrissy's mom, groceries in hand. But if she was only just getting home, who laid out the pots and pans? Mom looked around at the scattered pots and pans, confused. "You helping me cook tonight, Chrissy Lou?" "I didn't do this," replied Chrissy, as she and her mom looked around the kitchen. "Then who did?" asked her mom. "Chrissy Lou, dinner is ready." The Principal. From 8 Scary Ghost Stories, Don't Watch Alone. Spine-chilling stories, Peacock Kids. Hi, I'm Faith. This is the story of the Principal. Don't turn off the lights. As Gretchen sat with the other freshmen on their first day of high school, she could tell something about Middle Heights High School was different. But what Gretchen noticed the most was how strangely well-behaved the students were. They were smiling and polite, and almost too calm. Compared to the upperclassmen, the freshmen were unkempt, loud, and even a bit rowdy. Principal Richards welcomed them, and after a speech about how excellence is expected of Middle Heights High, he led the student body in singing the fight song. Middle Heights High forever. In unison we learn together. We're all bound for life's secret, safe and held so tight. Very quickly, Gretchen noticed that her classmates started to change. One by one, they began to adopt smiling, polite, eerily calm demeanor of the upperclassmen. The hallways got quieter. Students walked silently from room to room. Gretchen found herself appreciating the last few rambunctious and loud classmates she had left, like Chad Thomas. But that ended one day, during the first period when Chad made a joke during Mrs. Woodrow's class, and she sent him straight to detention. When he came back, he wasn't the same. Suddenly he seemed like everyone else. His hair, usually messy, was perfectly combed. His jacket was clean. He had on a rigid smile, and his eyes were blank. Something was happening in detention that was making the students change. As the days went on, Gretchen struggled to fit in. While she worked diligently in Mrs. Woodrow's class, she felt her classmates staring at her, suspicious of how she didn't fit in. As she felt their eyes on her, she got more and more nervous, and she dropped her pen on the floor. Mrs. Woodrow immediately spun around with glee, maniacally smiling in a way Gretchen had never seen it before. It was like she'd been waiting for Gretchen to mess up. "Detention!" she screamed. Terrified, Gretchen grabbed her things and walked out of class. But as Gretchen passed Chad's desk, he reached out and grabbed her hand. "Don't go," he mouthed. She walked into the hallway and slowly toward the exit, ready to book in when she got outside the school doors. Suddenly, Principal Richards appeared in the hallway, blocking her way out and motioning her toward the detention room. There was no getting out of it. "Welcome to detention," Principal Richards said, as he pressed play on a TV at the front of the room. She stared at the door, trying to figure out if she can make a run for it, when she found her eyes being drawn toward the screen. There were flashing lights and beautiful music, and she watched the whole thing. After that day, Gretchen fit in just fine.